So the first night, the 26th of August, Yanavacha was here. And I don't know how many people were here. You can get the talk online as well. And he's the president of the Cambridge Buddhist Centre, and he was reflecting on his connection with Sangharakshita, who we sometimes call Bhante. So I'll sort of go between Bhante and Sangharakshita. So he was reflecting on his connection with Bhante Sangharakshita and the significance of Bhante. So one thing that Yanavacha was bringing up was reverence. He was saying that he feels a lot of reverence for Bhante Sangharakshita, but he really emphasised that you don't need to. And I think it's really important. Also, I feel reverence for Bhante Sangharakshita, but I've been ordained for a very long time. I have been in the order, part of this Buddhist community for a very long time. I've read his works. I've met people who know him. I've reflected. I've got to know him in a way, not just him as the person, but as this, I'm going to say lamp, this sort of lamp of the Dharma, and this huge vision that he had. So I feel that reverence. But I didn't, of course, when I first came along. So there's no, you see us, people who are ordained, people a bit more experienced, having a lot of reverence for Bhante Sangharakshita. And that may come or may not come. But you don't have to jump in and think this is the way to be. Be really authentic to yourself. So we have his picture here on our shrine, which of course we would do, because we feel that reverence for him. But perhaps you feel respect, enough that, other people respect him, so you can have a sort of sense of respect for our respect. Yeah. So that was one thing that Yanavacha brought out. He brought out lots of other things. Have a look at the YouTube channel, because it's a really good talk, as usual. And then I followed up looking at who is Sangharakshita. So that was what I did, looking a bit at his life and his legacy, and then we've had 4 speakers looking at what Bhante Sangharakshita called the lineage that he's left us. So a lineage of teachings, a lineage of practices, a lineage of inspiration, and then also he sort of put on the end a lineage of institutions or responsibility that sort of has emerged and can also inspire us, or anyhow as part of our structure. And we had 4 really excellent speakers exploring those things. We had Padmajata talking about lineage. We had Sangadevi talking about responsibility and talking about her life. We had Priyananda talking about teachings, and last week Katie Raja was talking about practices. So we've got a panel here tonight. Where are they? A panel here tonight to sort of talk about it a bit more and bring things out. And then I'm just going to say next week is the 14th of October. Well, it's a very important date for who knows, in the future it could be a very important date for the whole of Buddhism, because on the 14th of October 1956, the great social reformer, the man who wrote the Indian Constitution, who stepped forward as a leader for the ex-untouchable community, he decided that he would convert to Buddhism. He wanted a path of uplift for all those millions and millions of people who were oppressed by the system of caste, who were in servitude, but also who were told that they were less than human in a way. And he stepped forward, he converted to Buddhism on the 14th of October. And Sanganath is going to come and speak to us about Dr. Ambedkar next week. And he is from that community that has so benefited. And I think Dr. Ambedkar's got so much to offer us because he has a path of social revolution, the Dharma revolution. And I think we might be ripe for a Dharma revolution. We need a new way to do things. We need a new way to approach so much of how we're living our lives through our institutions and all sorts of things, and our relationships and our speech. A Dharma revolution is needed everywhere. So Dr. Ambedkar's time might be coming. He's sort of stepping out of the Indian context to sort of perhaps even speak more broadly. Anyhow, I must get the panel up, otherwise it's just going to be me. So our illustrious panel this evening is Yashodaka. And we've got Julia going to join us. Thank you, Julia. And me. Yeah. So I thought I would start by asking both of you, and I'll answer as well. Could you, what brought you to, how long have you been involved with Triratna or with Buddhism? What brought you along? And maybe you could tell us when you were made a mitra, and if you're ordained, when you were ordained. So, do you want to go first, Yashodaka?
Yeah, sure. So, try and keep this as succinct as possible. So, the short answer is that in the late 1990s, both my parents passed away in the space of a year. And about 2 years later, I was sort of open for finding more in life, engaging in some sort of spiritual quest. And by great good fortune, I was, as it turned out, I happened to be on holiday in Mexico with some people I used to regularly go on holiday with. And we were just relaxing on the first night before dinner. Now there's me lying on the bed, feeling quite tired, and thought, I've got an hour to kill. And I looked over at the bedside table, and there's a Buddhist book there. It's called Sayings of the Buddha, probably a really ancient book. Probably I've no idea who wrote it. But I sort of read about the noble truths, and I sort of nodded sagely to myself that these sounded very true. The truth of suffering and craving leads to unsatisfactionness, or suffering as it probably is called, and that rang very true. And then I read the next page, which was the story of Kisagotami, the lady who's can't get over the fact that her young son has just passed away, and eventually she goes to see the Buddha at the request of, or suggestion of, some people she knew, and he tells her to go and find a mustard seed from a house where nobody has passed away to help cure this sick, what he knew as a dead child. Anyway, she goes on this quest, can't find a mustard seed from a house which hasn't had anybody die in it. And then she realises it's a universal thing, this death. And she lets go of her dead son and goes for refuge to the Buddha, and I believe becomes enlightened later on in her life. So when I first encountered this was like I'd seen wisdom at some level, and the first time in my life had a very, very strong effect. And I started reading loads of books about Buddhism, and one of those books was the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche. And this is talking about the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And there was a bit of a meditation in there about, I think they called it a guru yoga. It's kind of a rejoicing in merits of somebody you take on. And I've got to the stage where it looks like I'm heading in the direction of Buddhism, and what the Buddhists do, I assume that Buddhists meditate, so I better start meditating, hadn't I? So I did this meditation, had a very, very profound effect. I was basically turned from a pessimistic person to an optimistic person at a flick of a switch, which lasted about 2 hours, hour and a half. To my first meditation experience, you could say. It was a very strong effect. And then that led me to wanting to find a Buddhist group. And actually one of the guys who was on this Mexican trip, he lived in the Manchester area. I was living in Lancashire at the time, near Preston. And I was telling him that it had a strong effect on encountering Buddhism. And he said, well, he was like a very engaged reader, so he read loads of stuff. He was Buddhist friendly, and he'd been to the Manchester Buddhist Centre, our Manchester Buddhist Centre, he ran there, or FWBO it was at the time. And so, well, I bought some books there, and it looks like the stuff going on there, so why don't you make contact with them? To make that, this is obviously, this was just in a car, he was like driving the car, we're having this quite deep, profound conversation. Then he said, maybe you'll be the next Buddha, which frivolous comment. It struck me to the core. It was as if somehow this frivolous statement just really ignited something in me which was very, very deep. Maybe in some level I contacted my own potential or something like this, how I'm trying to understand it now. As it was a very useful conversation while he was driving the car. And then a few weeks later I encountered our movement in Manchester and turned up to meditation Buddhism courses, and I liked it from day one. So that was my introduction to our movement, and never felt the need to engage with any other Buddhist movement. I'd sort of found what I needed in our movement in Manchester.
Mm-hmm. When did you become a Mitra?
About a year, or when was it? Maybe about 2 years later. I moved to Cambridge about a year and a half after I'd encountered our movement for the first time, and then moved to Cambridge in late 2002 to become part of Windhorse Evolution, which is a Buddhist giftware business which carried on until 2015.
And you were ordained?
18 years ago in 2007.
Very good. Thank you. Wow. The thing with being on a panel and listening to a panel is I get completely absorbed with what people are talking about. I must remember to look up as well. Thank you. That was really interesting. I haven't heard your story before. Yeah. Would you be happy to share some of yours?
Good evening, everybody. I would be delighted actually to share, because I always love the questions, because each time someone asks a question, when did you know you were a Buddhist? Well, really, I think it wasn't until I'd been coming here for about 6 months. I know now I've been a Buddhist my whole life, in this life, and I firmly believe I've been a Buddhist in many, many other lives, which I feel very deeply connected with. But here was the first place that I could really connect with that, really. And in my 50s, when I moved to Cambridge 4 years ago, I was really clear that I was going to come here and be a student, because I left school at 16 and trained to be a hairdresser. And so coming here to Cambridge, it felt like the right place to be a student, and the place I decided to be a student was here. And before I'd even moved here, I knew this was here, and I've been looking for a long time. I mean, when I was a kid, I took myself off to Sunday school, and my parents didn't want to go. So my dad's Indian and my mum's English, and my dad moved here when he was just 19 years old, and he said, I will never teach you a religion, because he believed what he had seen had been really catastrophic. So he was a young boy when, the partition of India happened, and this was really catastrophic for him. And so his way of parenting was to give us the freedom to choose. But I was this kid that just wanted to know. I wanted to go to church. I wanted to go anywhere there was something more, because I was seeing, hearing, feeling, and I didn't know how to be. I didn't know what it was. What was I in touch with? When I was 7, I had some really strong, which I realise now kind of, you might call them a vision, but back when I was 7, it was just how it was, and I could see very clearly what my family would look like, that I would adopt 2 children, what they would look like, and I thought I was going to be a nurse, because I could see myself in hospitals, and I knew I needed some training. Both of those things have more or less come into fruition. But kind of going back to what I was searching for, I went around the world. I've had the privilege of living and working in 20 countries. And each time I would go to the Buddhist monastery, to the churches, and each time I would go to a new country, I'd think, this is it. I'm going to come back with my religion. And I go, oh, the Baha'is, they're quite interesting. Yeah, no, it's not for me. I went to lots of Buddhist places, but I didn't know that Buddhism could be like this. I thought if you were serious about Buddhism, you had to be a monk or a nun, and there was just no way my life was going to result in that. So when I moved here, we moved here, and I really knew that I needed to cultivate my mind, because those ideas that I had about life, they were going along, but I needed more than myself. I needed other people that shared values that I had. And so I really was looking for something, and when I came here, I gave it a good 6 months, and I thought, I'm really going to see how are these people. This is a bit of a bumper sticker statement, but I always kept in my mind, I think Oprah Winfrey said something like, well, you don't want to be going to church on Sunday and kicking the dog on Tuesday. And I thought, I don't want to be somewhere that's like that. I want to be somewhere where people can come along and they can say to each other, actually, this week has been really hard, or this has been fantastic, because I'm a practitioner of joy. This is my feeling in the world. And I have really challenging times as well. I don't always feel joyful, but that's my practice. That is my practice, is to be a joyful human being. So I became a mitra after 6 months. Maria and I were on a retreat together, actually, and there might have been some other people. I think Josh, you were on that one as well. And we both decided on that retreat, actually, we were in a group together with Arta Priya. And this man was just great. I really loved this man because he had rocked and rolled in life as well, and he was sharing it, but I could see he had these skills. So, I met up with Amarachandra and, had been along to some of the talks about what is it to be a mitra. I didn't even know what that word means. Everybody in the room I know has been here quite a bit. So I really liked that word, being a friend of the Buddhist centre, and I thought, I want to go more. So I'm in year 3 now, and I've been wondering about ordination, and I just knew that I wanted it to be intuitive. I didn't want to be on this kind of pathway, right, you do mitra and then do this. I wanted it to be something which was a feeling. And that feeling happened, and I wasn't expecting it. And it was on the evening that Yanavacha came and talked, and you talked to us as well about, and it was about the celebration of Sangharakshita's birth, 100th year. And I came along just like I normally do, right, what's going to happen, where am I in my busy head? And then Kaitaraja did a really beautiful meditation for us, and there was a certain atmosphere here on that night, I felt. And that atmosphere was the same as my mitra ceremony, which that's the way I can describe it. It just felt like there was more in the room. There was like a pulsing. There was just this, for me anyway, this feeling. And I sat down to do my meditation, and I just, Metta Bhavana, I do need to do that course, Who Hates the Metta Bhavana. I don't hate it, but it's not where my skill lays. It's not where my skill lays. So normally, I pre-pick the person that I'm having difficulty with. And when I first came along, I used to say the difficult person.
Yes.
And just that shift in word. No, it's the person I'm having a difficulty with, actually. So I normally pre-select them, otherwise I get all in a muddle. But I didn't that night because there was just this atmosphere, and I just didn't feel I needed to. Sat down, did it. And then at that stage, that person was myself, and I've never had that before, and I just looked at myself and just said, go deeper and do it now. And it made my whole body shake, and I just sat there in tears, and I just knew that means ask for ordination. Do this training, be a part of this, and do it now. And it was just lovely, and it was lovely to go and find Yanavacha. And he sort of said, Julia, what's going on? Because I was kind of a bit shaky, and I said to him, this has just happened, And so that's where I'm at. I'm here to cultivate my mind. I love the language, and I really appreciate spiritual friendship. I really, really appreciate that with people I meet here, with the sharing of the stories, so that we can be really upright in the world. That's what I want to do. I want to keep showing up all the time. I've really got stuff to do here, and I'm really serious about it. So I really need the training, and that's what brought me here. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Too many different stories.
Completely.
Which is really nice.
It's really great. Thank you so much. I think I'll share really briefly. What will I share? I think I was in touch with, I wasn't aware that I was meeting suffering in my life. So I was about 25. I was meeting suffering in my life, just a good old-fashioned unsatisfactoriness. I was working, I had a really lovely partner, I had lovely friends, but we were knocking up, for me anyhow, up against, we were wanting to be really radical, but I felt like we were just going to recreate the world that we were in. And I was thinking, this is not for me. I want something, I want more from my life. I do want that radical shift. And I'd come across this phrase from liberation theology, actually, the conversion of the human heart. And I thought that's what's needed, actually, for every individual person. That's how we'll change the world. Even though I was on protest marches and sleeping outside the US Embassy during the Gulf War and all that sort of stuff, I knew that the real change would come through the conversion of the human heart. So then I went travelling. So I met Buddhism in Thailand, and I went on my first 10-day retreat. Awful. Hell. They had us up really early. I couldn't meditate. No reading, no writing, no eye contact. That's no good. I'm an extrovert. How am I doing? Please, someone smile at me. But I was interested. I had a Buddhist book in my hand before I even knew it. I tried to meditate on my own, on my bed in the sort of guest house. And then I went to North India and I saw Tibetan Buddhism, and I thought, oh, this is more interesting. I could feel that there was a more compassionate heart to things, but I could also feel that I would need to become kind of pseudo-Tibetan, it felt to me, to really understand what was going on. And I knew that I did think to myself, oh, but I don't want to become Tibetan or whatever, that's not me. And then I went to Kathmandu and I met these order members, and I was like, they're doing it. I just remember that phrase, they're doing it. And we looked at the Wheel of Life, and they described this image which I'd seen on lots and lots of temples in all my travels. There's always a Wheel of Life. But they brought out the significance in not just through rebirth, which I wasn't really on board with, that would be a new concept, but through talking about it psychologically. We can be in a hell realm, we can be in a realm of hungry ghosts, or just the animal realm, or we can be in the human realm. Sometimes we can be in the God realm. Actually, I think us in the wealthy, liberal, modern West or world where we are accidentally in a God realm, but we really, really don't know it. We really, really take it for granted. And I think it's coming knocking. And some of our privileges and our wealth are being threatened. And I think I want to wake up to the fact that actually I am in a God realm. And I do meet suffering, but I'm so, in terms of the human history, feel so incredibly lucky. Anyway, so they were talking about Buddhism in a way that I could really understand and really relate to. So then I went to Oxford, where I met people like Priyananda and Kashadeva, which was really lovely. They were there at the Buddhist Centre. So we have these, and Helen Gilbert, you were in Oxford too. That's so cool. So these connections there. I went back to Sydney, and then I came back here to work for this Buddhist business that we sort of, some of us talk about every so often. And I was made a Mitra in Sydney in 1994, 4 or 5, I think. And I was ordained in India. I'm an Indian order member in 2005. Yeah, and I've been in Cambridge.
I like the way you had the honorary.
I really tried,
Indian head wiggle
and then I
there.
think, don't do that, and then it's like too late. I've already tried.
It's good.
Thanks. Yeah. So where are we going to go next? So we looked at Sangharakshita. So maybe we've been looking at Sangharakshita over this past. Did you meet him at Yashodhaka? Did you know Sangharakshita yourself? Is there something you'd like to share about him? Just being aware of the time.
Well, I've shaken his hand, and he signed my copy of the Essential Sangharakshita, which was rather delightful. And he said something, and I remember saying something really inappropriate. But he never actually had a one-to-one. I think I was a little bit put off because he seemed like a exceedingly brilliant and rather strange individual, and he was not the kind of person I'd come across before. I think I was rather reluctant to have a one-to-one with him, but also I think at the time, years ago, I had quite a lot of conceitedness, and a part of me knew that if I'd met somebody who's actually quite spiritually advanced, my ego would have got its comeuppance from him. That's how I'm understanding it now. But I remember this was, I'd probably been meditating for a number of months, and something sort of quite interesting had happened, but this sort of sent my mind into something of a difficult place. I think it couldn't quite handle with what was going on. And I remember writing this, I think it might have been even 10-page letter to Bhante, and it was on the mad side. And I remember going with my friend to a football match and saying what was going on, and I said I'd written this really mad letter to the head of our Buddhist movement. So anyway, so I then wrote a very short letter to him saying apologies for the mad letter I just sent you. How can you give me some advice on meditation? And he wrote back, and I won't try and put on a Bhante voice, but some people are able to put on a Bhante voice, but I can't really do it. And he wrote back saying, thanking me for my 2 letters, and he suggested I just continue with the Metta Bhavana and the mindfulness of breathing, which I thought was actually quite simple and straightforward, which is probably much what I needed to hear. I went with a number of people who are to Priya ordained on a Madhya Maloka Perfection of Wisdom seminar at a weekend, and Bhante sort of led the study. It didn't really leave a massive indelible impression on me. I think I'd have to reflect a bit on why that might have been, or whether it had a stronger effect than I sort of currently understand it. Yes, so didn't really have. Well, to say I didn't have a one-to-one connection with him is a little bit untrue, because he's a quite important figure in my mind. He's a very important figure, and he will certainly come to mind several times a day for the last 24 plus years. So he created an indelible impression on my mind, although I didn't have a personal relationship, maybe you could say.
How does he come to mind when you say several times a day? Is it just because you're reading his work, or you sort of think about?
No, he would just come to mind. He just
spontaneously comes to mind.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you. Julia, I know you didn't meet him.
No,
I
didn't meet him in person.
But you've been to Adhisthana, the retreat centre where he is buried, where he lived the last few years of his life, and he's buried there.
Yeah, I mean, my first sort of, as you know, this 6 months kind of detective work that I was doing, and so I always wanted to make sure I was quite honest with myself I wasn't honest to begin with here about what I was thinking about this human being that started this organisation, because I didn't know anybody enough, and I didn't know what I thought enough. The first picture I came across was a black and white picture, and it didn't tick the box at the time. I don't know what I thought. I suppose had he have been an Indian man, I might have just more kind of gelled towards that. But I've always been fascinated by who was this person who started this. And when I went, by the time I'd gone on retreat, I'd started to hear a lot about and experience this organisation. But I thought, I don't want to go to his burial mound because I don't know him, and I don't want to put myself in like a false situation where I might feel like I should do something. I don't know, that was just me. I didn't want to be in a false situation. And one day I took myself on a long walk, and then I just happened upon it. And I realised I happened upon it because I suddenly had this feeling, and a really overwhelming feeling actually, just a big movement in myself, and I wasn't really sure why. And then I realised, this is the burial mound. And so somebody had said, I'll just walk around it. So I just walked around it on my own, and it was just interesting. It was just like a little engagement. But then over time, and I've heard lots of stories, and in that first 6 months I did Google, and I came across the kind of more negative, if you like. I'm going to say that I'm very grateful, this might sound strange, that Sangharakshita had a blind spot, because I've got blind spots. I know I have blind spots. And so here is someone that had started an organisation, and that blind spot came out. So I was really grateful that you pointed to that as well when we talked about it, because I think that, you know, he had relationships, and in the time that he had them in the world, there wasn't all of the guidelines that there are now about if you're a teacher, if you're head of an organisation, and I think it's really important for us to think about that. So it didn't really put a question mark over for me. But I thought, okay, I need to know more. I need to know more about how this organisation goes about its business. And then more recently, probably about 3 or 4 months ago, I started to feel so grateful, really, to Sangharakshita, because it's really quite a job starting an organisation. It's no small thing, and I know it a bit in my life because I founded a charity 13 years ago. And we've now really grown, and we've got a big team, you know, all across the country. And as you grow those things, how do you have standards? How do you take care of the team? How do you have principles and still do what it is you're meant to be doing? So one day I just sat and I just thought, okay, Sangharakshita, and I think of him as a rainbow man, even though I always print out black and white pictures of him, but I think of him as a rainbow man. And I just thought, okay, so I just kind of, hello, you know, like, and I don't know why I have his voice. I love his voice because it's just this very intriguing voice. And so in my head I sort of said hello to him in his voice, which is a very odd thing to do. And I just said, you know, what advice would you give me? And it was just really clear. He just said, just sit down, Julia.
Oh.
Just sit. Just sit. And I thought, it wasn't do the metabar, not blah, blah, blah. It was just, and I thought, yeah, that's probably what he would say. So I cut it out for myself and did a bubble, and it's on my fridge because that's somewhere I look every day. Definitely I'm going to look at my fridge. So my communication with him is developing, but I really trust that I can be in communication with people who are no longer present in the world, and I'll trust that he'll come in when when it's right. Yeah, that's what I think.
I met Bante on a few occasions. I think a few occasions. The first time I met him was very significant. I was really new, and I was going back to Australia I was living in London, and people were saying, oh, you should go and meet Sangharakshita. And I thought, oh God, I've got nothing to say, nothing to talk about, but I thought I'd better go. I thought, as I was going, I thought I need to take a gift. And I went to a florist, and they didn't have the right size bunch of flowers or whatever to take. So I bought a too big pot plant. It was bigger than I wanted, and it was too big. Anyhow, I was aware that the gift was a bit too much. And when I went into he lived in a little kind of studio flat or something above the restaurant near the London Buddhist Centre. And he came in, I came in, it was winter, and before I could give it to him, he just said, oh, should I take that? And I went, oh, okay. And then I turned around to take my coat off, and the pot plant had disappeared. And I was like, oh, I didn't get to give it to him. It's like, oh, yeah, it had gone. And various different things happened. And then later on I thought to myself, I felt that the communication was, you didn't need to bring anything. He took it away, he took it off. I don't know where he put it. It was like magic. He put it behind a red curtain and it had gone. But I felt like the communication was just come as you are, just come as yourself. And that really, really stayed with me. And then I met him on a couple of other occasions. He came to Sydney, got my photograph with him, he signed my book. He came to the evolution shop where I worked. He came to our community for dinner one night. Various different points. And the last time I met him, I'm sure I was like, oh, Bhante, thank you so much for all you've given. He was just like, too much soppy emotion, not interested. I think he didn't sort of say calm it down, but he did sort of say calm it down. So, yeah. And I remember his funeral service really, really well. And I remember feeling that there was a special, I thought like, oh, he's bigger now than he's ever been. It's kind of like there's a sort of energy here that's a sort of bigger energy than it's ever been. And I was reminded of some conservationists working in Thailand, and they were working on old stupas, trying to conserve the old stupas, and they were getting some resistance from the local people. And they're like, well, no, we're UNESCO, whoever we are, university of this, we're going to conserve your old stupas. They're crumbling, they're falling apart. And this is a sort of a Western mindset clashing with the reality of what goes on for the people. So finally they found out that actually the old stupas, as they crumble, the understanding is that they release their power. So you don't want to try and prop up and conserve some of these old stupas. Their job is to then release their power into the world. And the stupas that are being preserved, they have the energy and they will sort of keep on being preserved. So sometimes I really bring this to mind when things shift or change or seem to crumble. And it's like, oh yeah, it's just releasing its energy to the world. So I felt that something like that with Sangharakshita. I sort of felt like, oh, he's bigger now. And I'm glad that Julia brought in, this man had flaws. I'm just sort of bringing it in again because someone was saying to me they didn't come to the talk that I gave, but they were feeling uncomfortable with having a picture of Sangharakshita on the shrine, and we were talking about him, we were sort of talking about everything that he's put in place. But they're aware that he has flaws. His sexual behaviour at times was not what we would now hold as sort of the right way to behave if you're a teacher of a spiritual group. And there were other things in there that perhaps I wish would have changed. I wish that he would have updated his language and had used gender inclusive language. I wish that we could replace man with human. But he was an old guy, and he loved language, and he wasn't willing to give it up. And I was reflecting, coming here, thinking, oh yeah, there are a few things that I'm not willing to give up. I get very insistent about British spelling, colour, flavour, program. I really want them preserved. I don't want that spelling to move into missing U's and change of language. And I feel really, militant about it. So I can see, it's he felt the same way, and yet I still wish that would change. So he's a really complex human being, and I just think, who was he really to set up this spiritual group from one man in a basement in Monmouth Street? He had a vision for something. He didn't even really know what that vision was. He just knew he had to start to act. And all the way along, he opened things up again and again. He opened up more and more. He did everything at the beginning. And then when it was a sort of the right time, he handed on some teaching to other people. He said, I'm going away for a long retreat. I'm going to write. You guys do it. I think the young people at the time were a bit like, oh, us, but they stepped into it, this sort of lineage of responsibility. It's like, yeah, you can do it. So he had confidence in people. But he had confidence in this vision. He had confidence that it wasn't really about him. He was this sort of, this catalyst or this conduit through which some sort of vision of the Dharma was coming through. It's incredible, really. It's incredible. So there's a lot more that we could all say about that, but we're sort of getting on to being out of time, because actually it's been really, really lovely hearing more personal stories from both of you. In my questions, I was thinking we'd get on to talking about which of the 4 lineages really speaks to you. Is there something from a talk that really sort of sparked you off? And maybe I could put those questions sort of out to you guys, and we can pick them up in the discussion groups that we have afterwards. But it's actually been really, really lovely hearing about your path towards, what led you to get involved with a Buddhist path, and your connection with Sangharakshita and the other things that you've brought in. So thank you both, Julia and Yashodhaka, for being part of our panel.
Can I just also, say a little thank you for that's on my mind?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Of course you can, Julia. Just looking at the time.
Well, I wanted to thank the team, actually, the behind the scenes team as well, for the series, and all the speakers as well, because I've had the privilege of being on the team sometimes, and there's a lot done, isn't there, from the recordings to the teas to the putting out the mats. But I just wanted, if it's okay, I was just thinking earlier about Sangharakshita, and although I'm still getting to know him, and I do feel I am, I've got this little rainbow heart which I just want to pop on the shrine. I just wanted to read you a 2-second, it won't take long. This was just a little spontaneous writing, so now as part of my practice, sometimes I just sit with something, a question or somebody, and I'll just write down what came. So I've only read this back to myself once, so I'll just share it with you. It's very, very short. There was a human gifted to us from the rainbow of the Buddha, so that we, like he, like the big B, us everyday folks, could cultivate our mind to be one of those skilled hands that authentically helps the world in a positive and compassionate way. I'm not going to pretend I know you yet, but I am getting to know you. I've put you on the fridge because I feel you richly deserve a place there, and because I want to remind myself of the Buddha, of the Dharma, of the Sangha. So, my new friend, Sangharakshita, it is with a deep smile and gratitude that I start this journey with you in an intuitive place. Simply thank you. Just want to pop that one. For the Rainbow Man.
The Rainbow Man. Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
thanks.
you, very beautiful. Great, thanks Yashodhaka as well. Thanks to all of you. We can go and have tea.